All right, guys, thought I'd do a little video here of my adjustable shift light. This is all pretty much contained inside the Autotronic Eye. Now what this is, GM called it the Autotronic Eye, and what it did was it automatically dimmed headlights from oncoming traffic, and then after the car would pass, your bright lights would come back on. Pretty neat, especially to be that old. You know, it's in a lot of the new cars nowadays, but they had that technology back then. So I always thought these were neat, mounted on the dash over here. Always wanted one. Now I had an old guy tell me one time that had a 55 that had one of those that they were pretty problematic, or his was anyway. And so he said he got to where he hated that thing. But anyway, they had a little box, and I think it mounted out here on the inner fender somewhere. I am not 100% about where they mounted that box because I've never owned one. Anyway, so I got to looking on eBay. Now, this was quite a few years back that I started this process on this thing. It's actually in my build thread at Tri5, but anyway, I thought I would do a video. Anyway, what I decided to do was basically make it a shift light. And that way when it come on, the light came on, it would come out and glare off the windshield and I would know when to shift. I was kind of keeping the midnight drags in mind when I done this because me and my friends always went to the midnight drags, and a shift light come in handy over there, especially when you got it lined up beside something that was louder than what you're driving. You needed that shift light because you couldn't hear your engine to shift. Anyway, so this is now, it's still an Autotronic Eye, looking at it, but it is a shift light. So what I started out with was this from Summit. This is actually just a spare I have, but this is an adjustable RPM shift light from Summit. And this is basically what it looks like. And it has a dial on the back, little knob, and you basically set it for your RPM shift point. And you can mount this pretty much anywhere. I've seen a lot of guys mount it on their steering column, on top of the dash, even on bottom of the dash like that. And when you get to your shift point, the light comes on in there and it tells you when to shift. And usually these are aiming at your face. So it's funny, I was messing with this morning and I had a guy stop by, he's a buddy of mine, and he asked me what I was working on, and I was showing it to him and telling him about it. He goes, well, that's kind of dumb because when the light comes on, it's going to glare off the windshield and it's going to blind you. And I was like, so what's the difference in having this mounted on your dash, your steering column, you know, aiming at your face? When it comes on, it blinds you. So anyway, you know, some people's got to be that way, I guess. Anyway, what I did, when you take these apart, there's a bulb in there, and you can replace it if it ever goes out. But that thing was pretty bright. I was using my power probe on it and messing with it. That light is pretty bright. So what I did was I went to O'Reilly's. This was a long time ago. I'm just now assembling everything. And I bought this little LED. It's a little single LED, and it's like a side marker light for a trailer or something. And it's a little single amber colored LED. So I basically used it instead of that bulb. This is a lot more dim than the bulb in that, which I like. But anyway, I took the shift light apart and I actually mounted the chipboard inside that. So it's all firmly mounted. And the dial, the knob and everything is right here. There's 3 wires, and I'm going to extend them. I'm going to get my soldering gun and solder out and some wire. And I'm going to extend it, and I'm going to mount it in my glove box. I've got a steel panel I made in there, and there's a hole drilled for this to mount in there. So my adjustable part of the shift light is actually going to be in the glove box. But when that light goes off, it's basically going to come through the original lens into the windshield, and I'll know when to shift. So anyway, when you take this apart, this is what it looks like. So that chipboard mounts with these 2 screws right here. And I drilled 2 holes in the bottom of this base and mounted that chipboard to that. So it was kind of cool. But anyway, so I've modified it, and here's the 3 wires I got to solder. But what I did was I polished the original lens here, and I built this out of steel. And it actually has a piece folded under at the bottom, and it's actually screwed to this. But now it's got an amber LED in there. But anyway, so I thought that was kind of cool. Now, It's kind of funny because when I started looking for one of these on eBay back when I was doing this, I was looking for a 55, 56 Chevy because the mounting base bolts to the dash and or the pedestal, whatever you want to call it. I couldn't find one for a Chevrolet, so I bought it from I think it was a 54 or 55 Cadillac is what it come off of. So I bought it. And when it came in, it did not fit the dash at all. Like the dash is totally shaped different on a Cadillac than a Chevrolet, so it wouldn't work. So what I ended up doing is I used a piece of muffler pipe and I actually smashed it with my foot on the floor, like stepped on it, and it ovaled it, and then I split it with a cutoff wheel, and then I pinched it together and welded it all the way up and then ground it. That's how I got my teardrop shape, because it's supposed to be the shape of a teardrop to mount in that into that base. That is a teardrop shape in there. So at that point, I cut a hole in the dash and I stuck it down in there and I welded it all the way around and then bevel ground it and then put filler on my finger, went around it and molded it in. Then I put a piece of sheet metal up here and I got holes drilled in it for screws. I've got a big hole in the center and I've got a grommet, rubber grommet that goes in there, and that's what the wires will pass through. It'll keep them from chafing. Now the cool part is the Cadillac, it takes the same base and the same head as the Chevrolet. It's the same exact part number. So this is accurate for what would be on this car. It's just this is custom. But it is teardrop shaped, so it does kind of look stock. But anyway, I thought it was kind of neat, and I thought it was video worthy. It's, you know, this car being a two-door hardtop sport coupe, I wanted to have a few options on the car to look like, you know, it had some stuff on it. And I've actually got a couple more option and things on the car that I've modified. And so I'll do videos of those later. But I thought that was kind of neat. You know, I have a little shift light in there. You know, it's in disguise, I guess, but it would have been neat to have all the original stuff and working. But, you know, that one guy told me at that one time that they were problematic. Of course, I don't know from experience because I've never had one that actually worked. But I would imagine all the parts and getting everything all together would have probably been pretty expensive. And if you've been following along, you know I'm always on a budget. So basically repurposed it is what I did. But I do have a lot of people that ask me what this little thing is here on the dash. So now you know. But anyway, guys, that's it. That's my Autotronic Eye shift light.